Hi, welcome. I'm Erica Lembke from the University of Missouri, and I'm happy today to be talking a little bit about how we can use reliable and valid data in a database decision-making model with a particular focus on students at the secondary level. So today we're going to talk about data-based individualization, or DBI, with a particular focus on using progress monitoring data and then setting up some decision-making expectations as we think about looking at that data. This is a DBI, or data-based individualization, is a really important part of what we do to help students and support students at the secondary levels, because by the time they get to those levels, they've had a history of lack of success in some cases. We have tried lots of techniques with them, strategies. Some of those have worked and others have not. And so it's important that we're collecting validated data that we have confidence in. And that's really where DBI comes in for that secondary level student. We're looking at systematic data, and we're really using that data to help individualize the instruction that we provide to students. I think the model that best captures DBI is this model from the National Center on Intensive Intervention that outlines the DBI framework. You can see the images in green are those pieces that really focus on assessment, including progress monitoring, determining if students are responsive or non-responsive, and then moving on to collecting and using diagnostic data and a continued cycle of progress monitoring. We're also going to be, of course, examining instruction. That won't be my particular focus today, but it is the focus, I know, of some of my co-presenters. And so as we look at this data, we're determining whether adaptations in instruction are needed. And that really leads us to decision making. As we look at that responsiveness or non-responsiveness, we're implementing some decision making guidelines to help us decide quickly and to decide often if students are responding or not to the instruction that we're providing. So here's a little overview of that process, including first making sure that there's a validated instructional platform in place, implementing some progress monitoring, which means collecting some frequent short samples of information, using that data to set a long-range goal for students. Then, if we need to, if they're not responsive to that initial instruction, we're collecting diagnostic data to really drill down to what they might need, making adaptations as needed, and then continuing that cycle of progress monitoring and implementing decision-making guidelines. What are some of those decision-making components? Well, it really works best if you have data that's graphed. And here's a very simplistic graph. Of course, you can graph in Excel now. There are lots of online graphing programs, but these are really the important pieces. You can see in this graph, we've set a goal for this student. This is the goal targeted in using this blue line. And then we begin progress monitoring, which is the red data. Those are individual weekly data points. There are trend lines inserted into this data to really capture how that student is doing in terms of that weekly data overall. The trend line then is compared to the goal line to make decisions. And in this case, you can see in intervention 1, things weren't going as well as we would hope. The student wasn't on track, and so it was time to make a change. And that happened, and we moved on to intervention 2. So those decision-making rules can be implemented after a minimum of 4 weekly data points. 6 weekly data points would be more ideal, but 4 would be a minimum. And as we get to the point when we have that that data. We look at the trend of data. If it's below the goal line, it's time to make a change. If it's above the goal line, we can either consider raising the goal, but it might be better to think about, can we provide a little less intensive instruction? Or if it's the same as the goal, then we just continue our current instruction. Then we continue that process of decision making as we move along with the student throughout the course of the year. You can learn more about DBI, data-based individualization, through our middle school algebraic readiness project. It's an OSEP-funded project called Project STAIR, and I've linked two of our sites below here. One is our website at the smu.edu web link, and also some resources for recent webinars that we've conducted on the NCII website. So thanks very much. I hope you're enjoying your CEC experience, and thank you for this opportunity to present at the DLD showcase. Hope you've gotten some good tips for data-based individualization at the secondary level. Arguably, it's one of the most important pieces of what we do to provide supports for secondary students.